future. The innovative mindset thrives with
a quotient of knowledge and learning,
a splash of creativity,
and an awakening of emotional intelligence.
Here at Winn, we've been working with some inspiring businesses
who've been setting us challenges.
And you might like to try them too.
Would you like to
generate and recognise ideas and alternatives,
think differently when problem solving,
inviting you to be open,
communicating with authenticity,
and manifesting what you wish?
A world full of strong, positive innovators.
Next week is our Mindful Eating Challenge for Win podcast. So let's see what Laura prepared for us.
We've had the briefing notes through for our mind nourishing task. So I'm just going to hit play and see what we're up to this week.
Hello, my name's Laura Bryan and I'm a nutritional therapist for Mind Nourishing. So my main focus is all around how food affects your mood and supporting people to improve their mental well-being through the power of nutrition. Right, hello the Winn team. I have got a project for you to get stuck into. So the challenge that I'm going to be setting for you guys is that over the next 7 days, I want you to be able to eat at least 30 different plant-based foods. So the reason for this is that we know that having a wide variety of different plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds is actually associated with increasing your overall well-being, including your mental well-being as well. So that is your first challenge, to get the diversity of fruit and veg and plant-based foods. The second challenge over the 7 days is that I want you to eat every meal mindfully. So on average, we make over 300 different decisions around food, and often they're taken mindlessly. So the idea is that I want you to tune into your meals, notice the flavors, the textures, how it makes you feel, and hopefully this will really help to improve your digestion, increase the enjoyment of food, and overall just improve your day-to-day. So that is your challenge. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so as a first challenge goes, that's not too bad.
Brilliant. That's really exciting, and I think it's so true. We do just eat. We don't really think about the mindfulness behind that, or so I'm excited to get started and to find out some more about this way of eating, really.
That's fantastic, and has already felt the energy of Laura, because that was just really inspiring and really positive. So, wow, mindful eating, let's bring it on.
I'm well up for it. I will give it a go. The biscuit jar is just behind me, just in case.
Here are our diary entries.
Went to our local farm shop and bought about 15 different plants, including baby beetroot, carrots, tomato, pansy, rhubarb, radish, some green beans, salad, leeks, chives, and the lovely strawberries are from my garden. How do I feel about it? Actually, I don't feel as nervous as a few days ago when I listened to Laura's brief about the challenge. I think I can do it. My first plant-based meal is ready. This is beetroot borscht, which I serve with English, I think, flat bread. I also added egg to it. Let's try it, how it tastes. Not bad at all.
So plant-based week, and already feeling inspired and feeling much healthier. Bring it on. Okay, so day 2 of plant-based eating. I thought it was going to be really easy. Different plant-based foods, a bit of mindfulness in regards to eating. A lot harder than I thought. Yesterday was back-to-back meetings. I managed a banana and for dinner some red kidney beans in a chilli. So must do better. But really enjoying seeing what the team are getting up to. They have put me to shame. They have done some amazing food and amazing ideas. So we're sharing those as well. Do you know what? Actually, I have loved seeing all the fruit, veg and everything that I am going to be eating. Already feel healthy. I haven't even eaten it yet. So that's fantastic. And again, just excited to see where this is going to go and how I'm going to feel. But yeah, I'm determined to do better.
On a business front, I think we've had such good fun with it as well. It's real team building. We set up a WhatsApp group, been posting pictures of an evening of what we've been eating and throughout the day, and that's been really good fun. We've had a bit of a laugh as well. So that's been really really insightful as well. From an innovation front, do you know what? I've learned something about a subject that I didn't really know that much about, or certainly know more about, and just how that connects with other subjects and other things and everything else that's going on in the world, and really sort of starts your mind thinking about challenges that we face, opportunities that we face, just around one subject matter that links to so many other things. And I love that. So again, really inspiring, I think, as a topic.
Something I'm definitely noticing more of so far through the week. Being really thoughtful on my snack choices or my snacking, especially on a working day. I'd normally reach for the biscuits, not gonna lie, but really been thinking and really been trying to be conscious of what I'm picking. So today I've had a couple of oranges and an apple, and it has definitely made me feel brighter through the day rather than a bit sluggish. So it's definitely an improvement there. Looking forward to the rest of the week and what else I can try and new things I can sample. So this morning we are having some Faken. We've got some in there. So far it just smells like smoky bacon crisps, so I suppose that's a good sign. It's not just me eating, in case you're wondering how many I'm going to have. So we will see how this turns out. Got some nice Faken sandwiches. So we're on holiday this week and we've come out to Black Goat Shine in the Isle of Wight, and I thought I'd ask off the off chance if there was anything from the little kiosk, if there was anything sort of plant-based, and we got a brownie. So I'm going to enjoy a plant-based brownie.
Yesterday was day one. It was okay. I'm already starting to feel better for it, which might sound really daft, but I'm feeling empty, which for me is really good. So yeah, I'm excited to carry on for the rest of the week. Okay, so we're on day 2 of the plant-based diet, and here is today's lunch. It is garlic beans, mushrooms and kale. Very healthy indeed. So today for lunch I'm going to make a roasted butternut squash salad. So I've already put the butternut squash in the oven, and I'm just about to make the salad. So I'm having an afternoon snack of fruit and nuts today. Thought I'd treat myself. So for tonight's tea I'm having shroom burgers and waffle fries with garlic mayonnaise, and then for pudding I've made plant-based scones and lemon drizzle cake. So my final thoughts on the plant-based challenge is that I actually felt much better doing it. So by the end of the week I felt just generally better, so I had more energy. Weirdly enough, I was sleeping better, my digestion just felt better. I actually felt empty and like my body was actually working properly, which is quite exciting. So much so that I'm actually going to try and keep it up for the foreseeable future.
Well, I've reached the end of our 30 plant-based items week, and I have to say I've really enjoyed the week. We've had a bit of a stressful week here in going through a house sale and selling a house. So it's been really nice to sort of switch off, look at some new recipes, learn some new skills and eat some really, really good food. And it's been quite simple. Looking at my shopping bill, it cost around the same. I sort of went more on the vegan side of things. So haven't eaten meat, everything has been suitable for vegans. And actually, yeah, it's been really, really straightforward. And it's been lovely to be able to eat things from out of the garden as well. Raspberries have just come into season, all the salad leaves that we've got. So that's been really, really nice. Getting to try certain things that I wouldn't normally have tried. So edible flowers, that was beautiful in a really nice salad. And I think I sort of came into this with a mindset that most people may have, in that I tried something, 3 years ago and it was disgusting, and so I'd never eat it again. But actually, no, I've been really surprised at that. So for example, oat milk, I tried a while back, wasn't overly keen, but wow, that in coffee gives you the creamiest, nicest coffee. And I have to admit, the chocolate oat milk is just amazing. It's better than some milkshakes. And the vegan cheese as well, absolutely fantastic. Really flavoursome, really nice. So there are things that I think definitely we will be keeping as part of our diet. They're easy, straightforward wins. They're better for me and better for the environment. So I can't argue with that. Mindful eating. I enjoy my food anyway. I think I've struggled a bit on that because usually by the end of the day, I'm just ready to eat. So I think maybe a little bit more time and thought on that, and maybe some tips on how to do that would be really useful. So a really good week. That's done. I think now on to the next challenge.
I thought I will introduce some Polish words as well. So, cześć, hi guys. 7 days ago I was sitting in exactly the same place, talking, how do I feel? Today is the last day of the challenge. I made like a list of my 7 days, including these meals and plants which I used. Some of I didn't count, I just forgot to record it, but these, we have evidence on this. Also to the challenge joined Colin, my husband, who was helping in cooking, enjoying the eating, and he stole my rhubarb, part of it, for making his vodka, rhubarb vodka. How do I feel? I feel fine. Actually, I don't feel much different than usual. For a few years, I've been vegetarian, so I'm used to this sort of diet. The main difference, however, is this time it was much more variety. I usually focus and just limit myself to a few veggies and maybe a few fruit. This time it was over 30, so much more variety. I definitely think it's good for my body and my well-being. And yes, I would like to continue this way. We definitely, or I should talk about myself. I spent much more time in the kitchen than ever before, and shopping as well. So all this was less chaotic, let's say. Maybe not a great thing, but I noticed, yes, much more washing up. So loads of pots, etc. Because I am a snack person, snacking. So I generally grab thing and, I can limit this to my one plate. This time there were much more pots involved, etc. every day. So this is definitely the difference. In summary, would I like to continue this? Yes. I'm looking forward what other members of my team think. I would love to see their videos, what they made. We actually had a really good fun sharing some funny moments of making our footages.
Great then. So hello, Win team. It was amazing to watch all of your feedback from the challenge. So just as a bit of a recap, it was the 7-day challenge to eat 30 different types of plant-based foods. And I loved all of your reactions were quite different when you like noticed what it was. I think some of you were quite quite like, okay, this is going to be all right, I could probably eat 30 different. And some, I think Simon, you would be like, oh my goodness, like I could do more than one. So initially, how did you find it then when you first heard about it? Were you quite confident, or?
I guess I'll just jump in first. It was really, it was quite a surprise one. It was that sort of like, oh my God, 30 things. How do you jam pack that into your diet? But as the week went on, it just got easier and easier and easier. And it was just easy to complement your usual diet. And I rather stupidly went, so we'll go vegan for the week. We'll just go for that. So went all out on it, but it just got better as the week went on.
Amazing. That's really good. And Anna, it seemed like you've found it quite easy as well, didn't you? I guess because did you say you were vegetarian?
Yes. So actually, from this point of view, because I'm vegetarian for a good 6 years, 7, I don't remember. So it's been a while. So it wasn't difficult for me to introduce like plants to my diet. The only thing which was quite challenging is about variety of the menu and so many plants. I thought at the beginning it would be difficult. But later on, actually, I think I a little bit exceeded. Like when I started thinking about and everything what I was adding to the menu. So it turned out to be quite actually good outcome.
And I love some of the stuff you were cooking. It was like really interesting when you were doing the beetroot soup. I was writing down the ingredients. It's a bit different.
It's different. It's very popular in Poland. I guess in England it is quite actually different. Kind of soup. So it was actually nice and interesting to introduce this part as well. Polish cuisine a little bit to English audience.
Definitely. And I do find that like when I speak to clients or when I myself am trying to like increase the variety, it is almost like, because you've got to spend a little bit more time like thinking about it, you do end up making different recipes that maybe you wouldn't have before, or maybe going back to like childhood things that maybe you haven't made for a while. So that's really nice that you kind of had that experience. I guess a bit of an introduction really about why I set you that particular challenge. So there was a study that was completed by the American Gut Project, and they basically looked at like 10,000 different people. They looked at their bacteria in their gut, and they found that people who ate kind of 30 plus plant-based foods, they had the most diverse gut bacteria. And I'm trying to this is like my speciality really is around gut health and mood, and we know that the people with the most diverse gut bacteria tend to be the happiest, they live the longest. So the people in blue zones across the world who live the longest, happiest lives tend to have the most diverse gut bacteria. So generally in the UK we're not very good at reaching that number. And in general, we're not actually even very good at reaching our 5 a day. So 70% of people don't actually even reach 5 a day. So all of you guys really, really smashed not only kind of having like the right amount of portions, but you were having different portions as well, like different things. And the reason why that is so amazing is because every different type of food that you're eating would have different type of fiber in it, and that different fiber feeds the different gut bacteria. So that is kind of one of the benefits. And some of you already kind of noticed that after that kind of 7 days you were potentially feeling a little bit better. But what we know with the gut bacteria is that actually is kind of changing pretty much all the time. So everything that maybe you ate on day one was actually impacting your gut bacteria by day two. So those changes, we quite like that kind of quick change, don't we? So I think that's why it's so amazing that some of you saw changes to sleep, energy, how you felt so quickly. And I guess in terms of what you were saying, Amy, about all of maybe your different kind of gut issues and things like that, what we do know is that people who've got things like IBS tend to also have a less diverse gut bacteria that normally goes with it. And obviously, yeah, we don't want you to feel uncomfortable or anything, but sometimes if you, and also maybe this challenge kind of pushed you from maybe too big a change all in one go, basically, because normally we would probably suggest in the real world that you slowly increase fibre so you can get used to it. But it seems like although some foods you might have had to avoid, it still had that benefit, which was really good. I am quite interested though, so a lot of you kind of shared pictures of different fruits and vegetables, which were amazing. Did anyone try any kind of different whole grains, or did you try any different nuts and seeds and things that maybe you hadn't before? I can see some nods. Robin, do you want to share? Was there anything different you tried?
Yeah, I tried to look at the sort of nuts side of things and look at introducing more nuts and into like snacking and stuff instead of reaching for like a bag of crisps or a biscuit. I looked at, so I got some almonds but done differently, like had some almond flakes and some almond, I can't remember what they were now, but yeah, and cashews and all that sort of stuff. So, and I do really enjoy eating nuts, so it was nice to go, yeah, these are good, and they're a better option.
Amazing. Oh, that's good. So you could find different varieties of different things, because I think that's when some people think, oh, if I've just got like 30 different types of fruit and veg, that can feel like quite overwhelming. But when you can add in things like nuts and seeds, which generally we don't eat that many of normally. What about beans, legumes, or anything like that? Did anyone? Yeah, some more nods there as well. Simon, what did you cook with kind of like the beans?
Lentils were fantastic, and they really so we did a lentil dal, and to be honest, it was just like eating minced beef or something like that. There was no difference whatsoever, and that was really sort of nice to discover. So if you were struggling with losing out on meat, for example, there are those types of things to sort of replace it with.
And that's such a good point as well, actually, because I think, and I really like, Simon, you mentioned this in your video, like some people quite often think that to eat healthier will be really expensive, but things like beans, lentils, chickpeas are so cheap and so kind of available for anyone on any budget. And I think it's not a particularly, I don't know, it's not a particularly thing that is advertised as like a superfood. And I think it's probably because they are so cheap and no kind of business is going to make millions out of them. But I think beans, legumes and things like that have got so many amazing bits of fibre, proteins at such a low cost that I really feel like they could be like, they could be the new superfood if they were, a bit jazzier. So yeah. So did anyone, I know you all kind of mentioned as well that you noticed that food prep was slightly more. Jess, what did you find? Like, did you find that you were spending a lot more time in the kitchen?
Definitely, because I don't normally cook at all in our house. So I had to indulge in a bit, but it's good because my half is a really, really good cook. Like, he prepares stuff and does use lots of fresh ingredients all the time. But what we both noticed, or what I certainly noticed, was actually the variety of stuff that we normally eat, even though we're getting our 5 a day, hasn't actually been as varied as it could have been. So it was actually quite nice to think, oh well, let's start with the plant-based item and then work out what we're going to eat for the week and stuff like that. So it was actually nice to work that way around rather than the usual, well, we'll go and have the normal, different things that we have in the week. So that was really good actually. And just having that time in the kitchen chopping up the fresh veg, chopping up the fresh with the fruit and stuff. Just as I said, just looking at it makes you feel healthier, and there's some great colours and it all smells amazing. So I really enjoyed it from that aspect, definitely.
Definitely. And I think that you've put on a good point there that I was going to mention later, that obviously the second part of the challenge was to be more mindful with our meals. But I think sometimes actually that process of preparing and cooking more just like naturally brings you closer to your food, because if you've spent a bit of extra time preparing or trying a new recipe, you do slow down a bit, because you're like, right, I've invested this time now, I need to make sure I actually taste it. So I think that's actually quite a good point that you mentioned there. I guess so from some of my observations then, it seemed like you all probably had to change your habits slightly. You probably had to maybe make a bit more of a plan, maybe write a bit of a shopping list, and kind of do that process to make it easier for you. Is that something that generally you all do already, or was that something that was a slightly different? Anna, do you want to share? Because I think you were saying that you tend to snack sometimes.
So my one, it's not my well, once again. So I generally, when I am doing my food shopping, it's rather spontaneous than well thought what I'm going to prepare, for example, during week. And I am a person rather who have snacks rather than making like everyday meal. So just pop into the fridge, find something, and they are mostly like, I try to balance, but it's not like proper cooking. So yes, at the beginning I struggle a little bit with this. I just bought too much simply, and because they are veggies, fresh fruit, some of them just went out of date, and after a few days it was just the food waste. It wasn't too much, luckily. I just need to be more creative and then rethink the whole process, possibly do shopping twice a week rather than once. Of course, it depends on your lifestyle, how much time you have, how much you work, the family, etc. So, but I started learning a little bit more how to organize myself better, and it started working. So I must add that I'm continuing this way, maybe not like 30 plant. I'm not thinking maybe as thoroughly as I did, but I'm still going with. I was just naturally missing something when I, like day after, I jumped to my ordinary lifestyle in terms of food. And then after a few days, I thought, no, I will make something like I did a week ago. I don't know about you guys, you have similar experience?
Yeah, I like to plan in advance for the week. And I think with the pandemic, ordering click and collect and home deliveries, you've got to think ahead, I guess. But you're right, I had to change the sort of meal plan around, because suddenly all that fresh fruit and veg, you're like, oh, I've got to get that out quicker, and leave the sort of lentils and things that will last till later in the week. So planning was important, definitely.
And there's a few things, I guess, that are kind of I like to do myself and recommend to clients, and I guess some of them are that, like doing that the bulk cooking. So sometimes that can really help to reduce the amount of time spent in the kitchen. And Anna, I think you did a few kind of like bigger broths and things like that, stews, and that can be really helpful to kind of have through the week, so you can kind of reduce that amount of time using leftovers for lunch, that kind of thing. But what I would say is that you all bought lovely fresh ingredients, but actually, like, don't be afraid to use things like frozen veg, frozen fruit. They can be amazing things to kind of have in the freezer, just so as you can use as and when. Especially if you're kind of making things like smoothies or stir fries, where you want to just throw in loads of different fruit or veg, and that can just be a really convenient way of just always having it there on hand. So I kind of explained why I set the challenge, but I think another kind of side angle from it as well is that we also know that our gut bacteria can really help to support your mental well-being. And I think particularly whilst we're kind of coming out of lockdowns, it's been a very potentially lonely and isolating time for a lot of people. I think it's amazing that we can use food as a tool to be able to support our mental well-being. So just some real key facts, because obviously I don't want to I get excited about these things, but you might not be so excited. But some key facts that we know about our gut bacteria and how they can impact our mood. So 90% of serotonin, our happy hormone, is actually created in the gut. Along with other kind of neurotransmitters like dopamine. So that's the kind of reward hormone that you might have, like if you bought something that you've wanted for ages, or you've had a really nice cup of coffee, you'll get that feel good vibe. So that's created by our bacteria in our gut as well. And also GABA, so that really kind of nice relaxation feeling. So these bacteria in our gut are really important for creating that kind of feeling, but also for our energy as well. So they create B vitamins, which help boost our energy. So we're learning loads more about our gut bacteria, but generally we now know that they do actually communicate with our brain. So you've probably, well, I'm guessing, have you all experienced like butterflies before in your tummy? Yeah, so that's kind of an easy way of describing actually that we can feel communications from our brain. And it's because we communicate through a nerve called the vagus nerve, which goes right from our gut to our brain. And one of the most interesting things that I've learned pretty recently, really, because a lot of it is quite new science, is that actually 80% of the messages in that nerve go from our gut to our brain, and only 20% are from our brain to our gut. So everything that you were doing over those 7 days to support your gut bacteria and to kind of increase that diversity, that gut bacteria is going to be feeling good, and hopefully those messages that it's sending up are positive ones. So hopefully it will just help your mental well-being as well as creating some of these really nice habits, like cooking, maybe sitting down and eating more meals rather than snacks, and kind of enjoying your food a little bit more. Kind of moving on to the second part of the challenge. So that was all around trying to be more mindful when we're eating meals. And I know for myself, I can find this really, really difficult. Like, how did everyone else find it? Amy, how did you find it? Was that something that you found quite easy?
No, I find it really difficult, mainly just because even though I was eating, I just get so bored. I'm someone that likes to be doing something all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find it so difficult. But the stuff you've just said about the vagus nerve is actually something I've been looking into recently as well, to do with my IBS, to sort of help calm it, because obviously the mind and the gut and IBS is affected by anxiety, and I get bad anxiety, so it's trying to calm that down to do that. So it's something, and even before this challenge I went on a webinar about gut bacteria and was looking at doing it. So yeah, overall the whole experience has been really good, but yeah, the mindfulness I couldn't,
struggled with.
It was too much.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that it's not like we can like switch on and be like, great, I'm really good at mindful eating. It's that process, isn't it, of trying to slowly tune in. And I guess that one of the reasons why it is so important is we know from research that it can increase your enjoyment of food. Generally, we tend to tune in more to our fullness cues as well. So most people, if they eat mindfully, tend to probably eat a little bit less, because they actually recognize when their body says, oh yeah, actually you're full now. Whereas sometimes if we're distracted by other things, we kind of overpass those like natural signals. And another thing that I find quite interesting is that when we're eating, we want to really support our digestion as much as we can. And actually we kind of forget that digestion actually starts with our eyes. So if we're not looking at our food, maybe if we're doing our like emails, or we're watching TV, or whatever it is, we don't start to release enzymes in our mouth. Our mouth doesn't water as much because we're not looking at it. We tend not to chew as much. So hopefully, although you might have found it quite difficult, just even simply just trying to tune in a little bit around that just really helps with that overall digestion, and it means that your gut isn't having to do as much work because you're using your other digestion tools like your teeth to support that. Does anyone have any other kind of feedback about how they found that mindfulness part?
I found it quite tricky as well, but
yeah,
even just listening to you say about, well, you should look at your food because the enzymes in it already, I'm like, oh yeah, I can visualize that happening there. So I work better when I visualize stuff and work through. Right. So I struggle because I was like, we spent time preparing it. It's amazing, looks great, smells great. And then I've eaten it and I've gone, oh, I forgot to be mindful. But I think, as you said before, like the process of actually preparing it was quite mindful. So that helped. But yeah, I like all your facts, figures and stats and what's happening with the body as it's happening, because that helps me visualize, and then I think I'll use that as well as part of the mindfulness. So
amazing, that's really good. And Robin, what was your experience?
I have a 3-year-old.
End of story. Okay, we jumped in.
So when it comes to like eating, when we were doing the challenge, I was actually away. It was the first time we've been able to go down and see my mum for a year, which again made it a very different experience than I think if I'd have been at home and in charge of the kitchen and the shopping and all that sort of stuff. So we sort of tried to do what we could. But yeah, trying to be mindful when eating with a 3-year-old is tricky. But I definitely find that my mindfulness comes, I love cooking and I love preparing food. And so that for me is when I try and do that mindfulness, and that's my time of. But yes, when sitting down to eat and going, no, just sit still, please. That was tricky.
Yeah, but also kids can be amazing teachers when we think about mindfulness, because they use all of their, like, I don't have children, but my nephew, he's two today actually, and watching him eat is always just like a feast for the eyes, because he's feeling it, he's like seeing how it feels on his face, he's like throwing it, smelling, like they use all of their senses. Obviously I don't probably recommend that you smear it on your face, but it is quite interesting that, and also children are really tuned on to their own internal cues around if they're full. So it might be that one day they'll kind of eat everything and be really kind of they're really hungry, and the next day they might not, and it's because they are just tuning into that internal cues, which we kind of learn not to do as we grow older, which is quite interesting. There was something actually that I was going to talk about, and you just reminded me, Robin, because you were saying that you were away and it kind of wasn't particularly how you would have ideally liked to have planned it. And this is something that I see with my clients quite often, and it's something that I like to kind of have a conversation about, and that is that sometimes we get the impression that if a food says plant-based or if it says vegan, it's naturally going to be better for us, and that is something that marketing geniuses play off, because they think, right, everyone wants to be healthier, I'll put like a green vegan tick on it or whatever it is, and people will think, great, that's amazing. But I think what is always good to be mindful of is that there's quite a lot of free from vegan plant-based foods that are very heavily processed, that have got a lot of salt in, generally probably will have more sugar in than normal varieties, because when they're taking out ingredients they have to replace them with additives and things like that to make them tastier, so people buy them. So I know a lot of you, the majority of foods were kind of naturally from like whole grains or whatever it is. But I think it's always interesting just to tune in and hopefully not get swept up on the vegan bandwagon, which is a heavily processed vegan diet, which generally is not going to be any better, if not potentially worse, than your kind of typical Western heavily processed diet, just because it's vegan. And we know also that obviously a purely plant-based diet can be really difficult to get a lot of nutrients that we might need. So there's some nutrients like vitamin B12 in meat that generally you might struggle if you are completely vegan. So I think that it was just something that it was brought to my attention that, and it's great, like everyone loves like having a quick kind of like alternative plant-based brownie, whatever it is. Like, I'm definitely there with you. Like, I would also opt for that, but it's just having in that back of your mind as well that it's a brownie and it's amazing, it tastes good, and it's probably going to give you that dopamine hit, which we all want when we eat. We want to feel good, but generally it doesn't necessarily mean it's better for you because it's plant-based or vegan. So that was the other thing that I forgot to mention before. So Simon, I think you mentioned in your video that you found it a bit of a struggle and potentially like you wanted maybe some ideas and tips around mindfulness. Is that right, around mindful eating?
Yeah, the eating part, definitely.
Yeah.
But I've got to agree with everyone else. And actually talking this afternoon, it's been really good because we did actually talk about what we were eating, because we made it and we put the effort in. We'd had a stressful week, so it was really nice just to sort of go, right, we've got to do this for work now, we've got to cook a meal. And there were new techniques, new things like that just put all the stresses away, and we focused on that, and then we actually sat and talked about it. So I don't think I ate mindfully in that sense, but we talked about the flavors and the ways it could be improved or changed, and that was really nice. So that was a benefit.
That's really good. And I think you've all kind of, so it sounded like some of you had quite a stressful week. You might have been traveling or like struggling with meetings and things like that. And I think it sounds like that cooking time was a real good time for you to almost switch off, because that is a mindful activity, isn't it? You've got to focus on like not trying to chop your finger off or whatever you're doing as you're preparing this food. And I guess in terms of now that you've brought up stress, that is a really interesting point to actually kind of tune into, especially when we're thinking about gut health, because Amy, you kind of mentioned already that anxiety and stress, it does impact your gut health. And one of the kind of benefits of trying to be a bit more mindful when we eat is actually generally when we are being more mindful, or for example, if we do mindfulness as a practice, so do you know, if like you sit down and you notice your breath and things like that as kind of like a meditation practice. Actually, some of those techniques can be really helpful before we eat. And the reason for that is that if we kind of try and slow down a little bit, notice our breath a little bit before we eat, it actually triggers our brain to think, oh, actually, no, I'm not stressed. So do you know, sometimes when we're kind of flying through the day, it can be really stressful. We might quickly grab some food, carry on. Well, generally when that's happening, we're in our fight and flight mode. So we're kind of in that survival, adrenaline's going, trying to get through the day. Our kind of primal instinct is thinking my life might be at threat here. So you're kind of, your body is alert. When you're in that state, as you can imagine, you're not prioritizing digestion, because your blood is going to your arms and legs. It's ready to fight. It's ready to kind of do whatever you need to survive. So purely that slowing down when you come to eat, maybe noticing your breath a little bit, actually triggers your brain to think, okay, actually, maybe I'm not at threat. Maybe I am kind of, I'm safe. And actually by doing that, you switch to your rest and digest mode, which is that parasympathetic relaxation mode. So hopefully even that process of cooking before, or even you kind of trying to be like, okay, let's look at the food, it switches off all of the crazy fight or flight alarms going and helps to calm it down. So in terms of supporting gut health, particularly Amy, if you struggle with things like IBS, even just taking a few deep breaths before you eat can actually be really helpful to tune into that. So that's another kind of tip in terms of mindful eating about why it can be so helpful. Other tips that you've kind of mentioned a lot of them already. So we've got kind of taken a few deep breaths to tune in, turning off distractions. So hopefully even little things like eating away from your screen or turning the TV off naturally just makes you a little bit more mindful. So they could be good ideas. And generally, I think it's just to be kind to yourself, because there is no way that you're going to be able to be fully mindful for all of your meals. Like, it is unrealistic. You would look really odd. You wouldn't speak or socialize with anyone. So it's not something that you have to feel like you've got to do all the time. But hopefully, like maybe when you have prepared a really nice meal, even if it's the first few bites, you just enjoy them, and that can have such an impact. So has anyone got any other kind of comments or reflections or anything?
I think for us as a team, we actually set up a WhatsApp group whilst we were doing it. We have for these, and I loved that because we were seeing, so look what I've cooked, look what I've done, and it was actually on a team building front as well. I think it was really good to do. And quite inspiring to sort of see what the guys get up to and just seeing how good they were at cooking, basically. But yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. So the team aspect really worked.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's food is just an amazing conversation starter, isn't it? Like, and I think probably when we've been working from home and things like that, that is those little kind of random conversations by the kettle or when people are eating their lunch is kind of what I feel like I've missed it. So I don't know about you guys, that kind of just random talk. So I'm glad that you managed to kind of get that little bit of kind of team discussions and team banter, like comparing recipes and things like that, which is really nice.
It was really nice as well to try things that I hadn't tried for years. So for example, the vegan cheese I'd probably tried 5 years ago and thought it was awful, but actually it tastes incredible. And I think as more and more people are eating it and using those things, it's getting better known, better flavors. And chocolate oat milk, the best ever. It's always in the fridge now.
You're converted then.
100%, yeah.
Amazing. And I think on that note as well, I guess kind of away from the, obviously we're kind of talking at it from a well-being point of view, but a lot of people are getting really more interested in our environment, kind of looking after the world that we live in. And I think that is almost a way of people are wanting to maybe reduce their intake of animal products to kind of support the environment. So I think it's nice that, actually the demand from people looking at it from an environmental point of view is also meant that there are better products out there for people, and especially I guess for people, Amy, like you maybe, who do struggle with different intolerances and things like that. Hopefully it's so much easier now to be able to kind of opt out from things like gluten and dairy because there's lots more available for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been lactose intolerant now nearly 10 years, and when I started at 16, it was literally like the tiniest bit of an aisle, and it was like the cheese was basically plastic. I'm pretty sure it just had the same texture, and it was like bendy, just like plastic. And now, like I get too excited now when I see something new. So I definitely fall into the trap of buying the produce, like processed free from stuff, just because I get so excited to see it. Yeah. Because it's something that I've never really had. Like, I didn't have ice cream for years because there just wasn't any available. And now I am overrun with choice. I can even have Magnums now, which is exciting.
That's it. My little girl is she's got a milk and egg allergy, so she's basically a vegan who likes sausages. That's how I tend to describe her. But it is, even in 3 years, we've noticed such a difference. And what I also like is, and again, it's a marketing technique and it's all that sort of stuff, but the packaging that you get with these sort of vegan and more plant-based, you get more recyclable options, you get less use of plastic, and all of that is just adds to why I like to look at those options. But you're right, it's just seeing something that she couldn't have last year, for example, but now she can. It's like, this is amazing. She could actually try something that's, and it's made to look for kids as well. Something as simple as Easter eggs. You can now get Easter eggs that are dairy free, but have little characters on them. That wasn't a thing when she was really little. So yeah, just silly little things like that. It's definitely, you can see there's a movement there.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe it's probably going to just continue really, and to have more options, and maybe potentially get to the point where it would be the norm to base our meals around vegetables. Like that is the kind of the done thing. And so I think that's a really positive way to go potentially.
I just wanted to add, I think I mentioned this in my like brief like update video, but I was missing this part, possibly, yes, being like busy, and it's like we talk about processed food, but we have some kind of like a process, it's easy option. It's easy way for everyone just to grab something, and this is what I've been doing a lot, but just trying to cook your meal from just like you could say from scratch. Yes, doing everything. And this is a very interesting information you gave us, Laura, around exactly how important it is, and in terms of like health benefits. So this just brought me back to like my childhood, where my mom or my gran, it was just the norm. Some of us possibly remember this, how it was, just we had meal and people just sat around the table rather than a telly. It was like in my childhood when I was spending holidays with my gran, and it was just conversation, and it was just natural mindfulness. We didn't know about it, but I realized how much I miss it, and I enjoyed this part of like a process. So it was a bit of reminiscing, but I would like to continue maybe at some point, not completely maybe, because yes, it's easier, or we are much busier, I guess, in terms of our working life, but continue this a bit as well. That would be good.
That's really nice.
I love that. And also, actually, Anna, that sparked a kind of thought as well, because our kind of practices around food have really changed as well. And you might have kind of recently, it's becoming more popular to see things like fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, and all of these things that we've generally like been eating for generations and generations.
Yes.
And in the modern day, then we've kind of stopped doing it, but actually we know that they are so amazing because they're kind of like a probiotic food. So they're creating the good bacteria. We eat them and take on that bacteria, which helps to up the good guys. And I think that's another thing that traditionally we were kind of doing without realizing, but we were really helping our digestion. We were helping our energy, our mood. And hopefully some of these simple practices are coming. Whenever I mention fermented food, I always get half of the room grinning and half like, ugh. So I think it might take a little time to get everyone on board, but these are some things that are generally kind of coming back in as well, which is quite good.
That's interesting, because in Poland, fermented food, I think Eastern European as well cuisine, it's quite popular, particularly in older, you could say more traditional food. We have a lot of cabbages, smelly, you know. Maybe not the best smell. However, it's very good for your guts, and it's very good for like exactly for guts bacteria. Also, like yogurt types, or I'm not sure about the name, kefir.
Yeah, so I actually go to the Polish aisle to buy it because it's so much cheaper than the new health brands, which are like triple the price. But
yes, so you could have this more natural. And actually I remember my gran was making it from, you know, just kefir and just old days. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny how different cultures do it very well, but I think maybe we've kind of lost touch in that in Britain a little bit with the fermented.
I think it's just the global thing, and because the world is faster now, so it's easier to get processed, and we learn these habits as well. So it's more complicated, but it's also a positive way we can exchange this experience, cultural. So like a lot of stuff from, you could say, Eastern cuisine as well, like Asia is so popular, it's so good. I'm discovering all this Indian food being in England, but also traditional English, which I really enjoy. So it's really good. Actually, we can do it now. So it's a positive way as well.
Definitely.
It's part of the grow your own movement as well, isn't it? So looking out in the garden now, there is so much fruit and veg, and you sort of start thinking, oh my God, how am I going to keep this now? Am I going to use it? So I think pickling and things like that are key. Yeah.
Really good idea.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of supports that reducing the food waste, which a few of you were quite worried about, because that was generally how they used to preserve food, with fermenting it, pickling it. So it's bringing back some of these things that we've been doing for so long that worked really well that we've just kind of forgotten about.
We see it back now. People are more mindful. Yes, we need to go through the circle, I guess, to some point when we started realizing what we lost, how good it was at some point, maybe. Just modify to modern lifestyle and do it.
Any other comments then before I? No?
Obviously, just want to say a big thank you from us as a team as well for setting the challenge to us. It's I think we've all really enjoyed it and got loads out of it. As I say, and just then realizing all the science behind it and the benefits it can give to yourself and others as well, I think it's phenomenal. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed. Thank you. It's a lot of information. Actually, I've got much more questions. I might actually go to the website and have a look at the content.
Message me. That's fine.
It's really interesting. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. So amazing. So well done, the Winn team. You successfully completed your challenge. So I loved seeing all of the vegetables. I loved seeing all of the different recipes you made. And although you might have found it slightly more difficult to be mindful, I love that you all gave it a go. So well done all. I hope that some of the things that you've kind of picked up over the week, you might continue to do. And hopefully that will just continue to really help your gut health going forward. So well done, everybody.
Are you looking for nutrition therapy? Do you want to improve your gut health or maybe your well-being? Then Laura can help.
It's not only my gut feeling, but also a lot of information coming from Laura at Mindfulness. We learned so much about the food, how it benefits our health, about gut bacteria.
To get more information or your own personal plan, go to www.mindnourishing.com.
So now that you've listened to the podcasts, we want you to get involved. Head over to the innovation platform where you can find out all the behind the scenes of the podcast episodes, as well as all the other episodes. I know. You can get involved in all the challenges, and don't forget to let us know how you got on. I want to see who can beat Anna's a Rubik's Cube time. And finally, you can also get involved and see all the amazing businesses that we feature within these podcasts. So what are you waiting for? Stop listening to me. Get on the innovation platform. Address below. Okay, so I'm just going to cut in. This is future Amy. Realising this is a podcast and you guys can't actually see the web address for the platform. So that's my bad. Sorry, guys. So to find all your podcast extras, behind the scenes, areas where you guys can also be involved in our podcast journey, head over to win-hub.wazuku.com. That's win-hub.wazuku, which is spelled WAZOKU.com. Look forward to seeing you all there, trying out the podcast challenges.
This production has been brought to you by DT Studios Visual Marketing. Directed by Terry Livesey, producers Jess Antley, Terry Livesey, Douglas Anderson. Presenters Jess Antley, Amy Bromwich, Simon DeGarris, Anna Makowska-Vines, Robin Rooney. Supported by the European Region Development Fund, HM Government, Midland Engine.